So yeah, Ian, if you can give us a quick rundown of the job that you do at Slitherine and Matrix Games, I'm sure it's kind of enormous.
Well, it's changed a lot as well. So what we are now is very different to what we were when we started. So it's just over 20 years now. Back then, um, I was a producer at IDOS, working on things like Deus Ex, worked with Muckyfoot, the Base Station Manager, Timeline, a few of those things for IDOS. And I left because one of the games I was working on was a Game Boy Color game called Tyrannosaurus Tex, and the developer I was working with were completely disorganized. And after working at a publisher for a while, I'd realized that I really didn't enjoy it very much. I wanted to be more involved in development. So I left to help this developer make the game. That game, a few weeks after me joining, the guy had a nervous breakdown and disappeared that I was joining. So that team disintegrated. And so I was left then with a company, Slitherine, and nothing in it. Um, and so then I started talking to some of the people I'd been working with before, um, from my development background before I joined IDOS, and we started up a very small team, one programmer, one artist, and me as the designer. And we made Legion, our first game, which was a very well, it was a small project because we had to try and do something realistic for the size of the team. So it was an Empire level strategy game combined with little real-time battles that you didn't really control. So more of a visual reward, and that's how we started out making Roman themed strategy game. And we went through. We got our first game released through Paradox, um, which was a complicated relationship, which probably best not to go into details about. Um, and then we moved on to Chariots of War, started getting slightly more ambitious with the games, Spartan, Gates of Troy, and then we started moving into a new series, Great Battles series, which was more about controlling the battles. There was less of a campaign and more detail in the battles, and that's when we started to talk to Marco. We became involved with him. Marco was our publisher at the time at Black Bean, and he was signing up uh, the game, which was originally called Legion Arena, and then turned into Great Battles Medieval because Marco brought us a History Channel license. And that's how we started. Everything started getting bigger and growing from there when we started working with Marco. And a few years later, Marco left Black Bean and actually joined us. And we started transitioning from being a very small developer into somebody that was helping other developers to publish their games, and then into a fully fledged publisher ourselves, where we started publishing on PlayStation, Nintendo. I can't remember which platforms we started on. DS, I think, initially. And the Wii, and then onto all sorts of other platforms. And we started signing other licenses like Horrible Histories. Um, but it was that point when we started working with Marco that we really started to grow from being a small developer into a um, something bigger, building those relationships with other license holders and things like that. And that the only thing that we had trouble was just as we were becoming a fully fledged publisher, all manufacturing these cartridges and these discs. That's when the retail market fell apart, and so we didn't suffer too badly, but our timing was pretty bad. If we'd been there a couple of years earlier, it would have been a lot of an easier transition than it was for us. But as it was, moving to retail and becoming a publisher was a pretty painful um, painful series of events. But Marco is actually knows more about that side of things. You were really doing all of the dealing with retail and things like that, Marco. You probably got a much more detailed memory of all those joys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it could note that Ian moved into development because he didn't like working for a publisher, and then ended up being a publisher. But that's funny, quite funny when you think about it.
Yeah, it was working with Westwood Studios. We were making a game for them called June 2000 and June Emperor, and we thought we'd got the game just about perfectly balanced. And then their producers came in and they gave us a new data file which overwrote all of the mechanics of the game, and they said you must use this, after us spending nearly 2 years making the game. And so that was one of the most frustrating days of my life.
I didn't know that you guys were involved on Dune 2000. That's really interesting. I mean, probably the first strategy game I ever played, well, I guess it's the first real-time strategy most people played, was Dune 2. So that you were somewhere later in the legacy.
Yeah, we were a
Dune.
little bit further down.
Yeah.
We started getting involved with Westwood through Command and Conquer, because I was the UK Command and Conquer champion. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, and we started developing mission discs and things for them. So we did some of the Red Alert. Was almost all multiplayer maps from Red Alert were done by us as part of Intelligent Games. But this wasn't as Slitherine. This was before Slitherine. But the technical director and the creative director from Intelligent Games are now our creative director and technical director. So it's most of the same team. And actually, we've got now some of the other artists that we used to work with back then as well. So quite a few of the Intelligent Games team are now working with us at Slitherine. So a lot of the Dune and Dune Emperor team are now at Slitherine.
Wow. That's that's a really incredible story. I look forward to kind of like diving more into that with Marco. But I guess I'll move on to my next question. I'll say that for the next interview. So kind of give people kind of something to look forward to.